Okay, today we're going to talk about pre-patrol inspections on our vehicle. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that as we're doing every step in our inspection, we want to make sure that we check off what we do. You don't have to have a checklist, but it's wise to do so because you can make notations. If you see something that is a little bit off, you can always refer back to those and keep an inventory of your inspections. That way, if your vehicle has some types of problems, you can historically show where they began and what led up to the issue. So, but hopefully you can get that fixed. So, what we're going to do, we're going to begin with our engine compartment. We're going to start in the inside of the door here, where our hood release is. We're going to bend down, pop that. Every car is different, but we will be using this Ford today for demonstration purposes. Hood's up, so I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to begin with my brake fluid. This is brake fluid right here. Now, your brake fluid and your power steering fluid have no dipstick. So what the best way to do with these is they have a mark on the outside. They're difficult to see because as the car ages, these containers get a little bit cloudy. So what I'm going to do is actually use my flashlight, and I can see the fluid level there, and we're right up there on the max with our brake fluid. So that's one way to tell. Or you can also look in it. Sometimes looking down in a liquid container is kind of deceiving, so it's always good to look at the outside and use a flashlight if you need to do that. Washer fluid. So same thing here. That's pretty easy to see. It's blue and you got the light colored container. We're about halfway on it. We have our power steering fluid. There you have outside of the container. It's easy to see with a flashlight. So looking at those, we can tell that they are good to go. One thing I can tell you about the brake fluid and the power steering fluid on a Ford, they can be checked. On a lot of Dodges and newer vehicles, they have to be checked by a dealer or a mechanic. So that's something you'll have to deal with your department and having those checked on a regular basis. So here we can also check our air filter. And pop this off. It's pretty simple. Pull the air filter out, and it's clean. You can see through it, so see light through it. There's no major obstructions, so that's a good air filter. If you can't see light through it, you've got a big problem. If it's got dirt or anything else in there, it may be an issue for you. All right, moving around, I'm going to check my belts and hoses. Radiator hose, it's flexible. There's no dry rot, no damage. It's in good condition. What I do want to show you is on our belt, you can see some cracks right here from dry rotting. That belt is going to need to be replaced sometime in the near future. When you start seeing little cracks in there, it's time to look at replacing that belt. Also, we're going to move around here and look at our radiator fluid. Same thing, I can see on the side where the fluid level is. Again, I can unscrew the top and look at it, but the issue is sometimes it's deceiving trying to look down in a liquid, trying to see the depth of it. So we've got that. We'll check our battery post. As you can see on this battery post, there's a little bit of corrosion, so we want to make a note of that on our checklist. That way we'll know that we need to get that taken care of. So certain things, make sure you make notes. People say, well, I'll make a mental note, but one of the problems with making a mental note is when you get busy, you get on your shift, you get off your shift, and you know, you don't remember to get that done. So make a actual written note so you can remember what you're doing. All your engine compartment, all your fluids, things like that will need to be checked on a weekly basis. So you want to make sure everything you do inside this engine compartment is done on a weekly basis, at the very least. Same thing with our tires. We've got a tire gauge here, so what I'm going to do is check my tire. Most of these tires on the outside will have the air pressure, the recommended air pressure. So max air pressure on that is 44. If you want the actual recommended air pressure, it will be on the inside of the door, on the driver's side door. But that's 35, so that's good. You always want to check your tires when they're cool. Do not check your tires when they're warm, because the tire pressures will come up as the tire heats up. So from here, we're going to start on the exterior of the car. You can see windshield wipers, blades are fine, good there. Windshield's a little bit dirty, but the windshield wiper fluid has taken it off. But you always want to clean windshield before you leave. One fluid that we did not check as of right now is our transmission fluid. And the reason we have not checked at this point is we're going to wait till we do our startup procedure, because the transmission fluid has to be checked when the engine is warm. So we'll wait and check that when we do our startup procedure. Also, when you're checking your oil, which is right here, you will want to make sure that that is done when the engine is cool. And I'll demonstrate how to check the oil. Before you start your inspection, you always want some type of rag or paper towel or something of that nature. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to clean it off first. Slide it back in. And here we are. We're inside our little cross-hatch area right there. That's a good level, oil level right there. All right, so we have we've gotten our engine compartment, with the exception of the transmission fluid, taken care of. Our belts, our hoses, radiator fluid, battery. I'm gonna make a note. Corrosion on positive cable. Now, at this point, I've looked at the upper part of the engine compartment, but one thing I want to do before I ever leave is make sure that there's nothing leaking underneath. So I would check under the vehicle to make sure, you know, if it's sitting in the same location for a while, check and make absolutely sure there's nothing that has leaked out or anything coming out of a seal, which could be catastrophic failure if you have something leaking out of your car, especially something leaking a lot. Now, so we did our tire over here. We came around. When you come around the front of the car, you know, check the headlights, make sure they're clean, make sure your grill's clean. And then we're going to come around here, check this tire as well. We'll move to the back of the car, check air pressure here, go to our tail lights, make sure our tail lights are clean as well. And then we'll go around to the other side and check that last tire. You always want to kind of make a 360 around your car. That way you kind of end up where you started, and that way you're not getting sidetracked on what you're looking for. And and that way you're not going to miss anything. Now, we are now going to look at the interior of the car. We're going to check our lights, our blinker lights, everything that we need to do before we go on patrol. We'll also check our emergencies as well. So my startup procedure, what I'm going to do is keep my foot on the brake, start the engine. I'm going to first check my emergency brake, push that in, shift the car down to drive, ease off the brake. The car doesn't move, that means my e-brake is working fine. So now I'm going to check my my lights and my tail lights, make sure they're working, and then I'll check my blinkers. So I'll go to the front of the car, headlights are working, fog lights are working, everything looks good, so we're good in that respect. Then we'll go to the back and we'll check our tail lights. Those are both working properly. Now we will move to our blinkers. Do the left side blinker first. We go to the front. That is working. Go to the back. Make sure we have our rear blinkers working. I can see clearly that is working. Take our right sides. Same thing. I'm going to walk around. That is also working well. And our left side, make sure that's working well. One good thing about having a partner is it saves you a lot of legwork, a lot of walking. So if you have somebody that can spot for you when you're doing this, they can just give you the thumbs up and say, yeah, that looks good. That blinker light's working on the front, that blinker light's working on the back. But if you don't have that, you'll have to get out and walk around. Now the same thing with your reverse lights and your brake lights. You know, how do you do that without help? Well, one reason I've kind of backed up to this building is because I can use the actual doors here to look at it. So if your department has glass doors or something reflective, you can look at that. So what I would actually do, so I would get in, look at my rear view mirror, touch the brakes. I can see the brake lights coming on, so we're good there. Same thing. I will shift into reverse. Still have my emergency brake on. I'm shifting into reverse. I can see the reverse lights come on. I'm good. And so that's a good way to check that. If you don't have any other source of checking that, just any kind of reflective surface. Now that we've covered everything on the interior and actually safety features as the car, now we're going to actually check our emergency lights. So I'll switch these on, and everybody's going to have a different box on how each emergency light works. So I'm not going to go into showing you how to switch this on, switch that on, because obviously we have different things on all of our different patrol vehicles. But I can see all of my lights are working. I need to turn on my alley lights and my takedowns just to make sure those are working, and I've got those on the sides and the front, so I'm good there. I'll go check the right side alley light, and that is good as well. So we are all of our lights work. Check your horn, check your siren, make sure that all that is working well. Now that we've gotten everything, I'm going to shut the engine off and go back. Now the engine's warmed up, and I will check the transmission fluid. Again, just like the oil, I'm going to wipe off the dipstick before I actually check it or reinsert it. And there it is in our crosshatch area, so we're good on transmission fluid. before I leave, I want to make sure I want to check my my dome light, my door locks, make sure all of them are working. If you are in a department where you actually switch vehicles with people, switch cars, you want to do a full inspection of the rear seat. If an arrest was made and the suspect had stashed something and the officer before you did not get that evidence, you want to double check that before you go on to patrol, just to make absolutely sure that there's nothing in there that could harm you or somebody else. So double check that before you go on to patrol. And make sure when you're doing this, you check everything off. Make sure that you've gotten all your mirrors are adjusted, your seats adjusted. Make sure that your seat belt works, and officer safety is number one on everything. So, anytime you're checking your vehicle for your safety inspection, make sure that you're scanning the area. You're constantly looking around, because officer safety is number one. So if I check my oil, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up and look around and make sure nobody's around, because, you know, officer safety is number one. We don't want to get hurt by somebody that's wanting to cause us harm by getting caught off guard by looking, you know, down into the engine or bent down checking a tire. So always scan and look around after you check each component of that car. Hopefully this works for you. This is not a standardized way of checking. You can do any way you want, but I highly recommend that you use a checklist, you know, for your own personal, you know, records, and making sure that that you're taking care of the car, and you can show your administrators and you know, the folks you work for that you are taking care of that with a written record of so.